This is the story that has people across the country asking what happened to Emmanuel Haro, and now police say his parents may be lying.
I got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready, and somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
This video per KABC of his mom speaking to television cameras after she claimed she was attacked and her son was abducted. Here's what the baby's dad said, looking straight into the camera.
"Whoever took our son, please give him back."
But now law enforcement in Southern California say they can't rule out foul play, and they are having a hard time trusting what these two parents are saying now that the 7-month-old child is still missing and mom and dad have reportedly lawyered up. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. I have new information in the search for 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro. We just spoke to a national nonprofit today, and they told us why they stopped helping in the search for this 7-month-old boy. I'll get to that in just a moment, but let's talk about why law enforcement are having a hard time believing Emmanuel's parents. Here's a picture of the 7-month-old child. We first learned his name Thursday night. His mom called police from a strip mall, and she had a terrifying story about what she said just happened.
I got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready, and somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
That video per KABC TV. The mom's name is Rebecca Haro. She has that shiner under her right eye. She says she got the black eye in this strip mall parking lot in Yucaipa, California. She said she was there because she was at her other son's football game Thursday night. They needed to get something from the Big 5 sporting goods store. But when she was in the parking lot, young Emmanuel, just 7 months old, needed his diaper changed, and while she was doing that, someone came up and attacked her. Here's what she told KTLA.
I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said, "Hola," and I didn't see nothing since. I woke up right here on the floor and I didn't see Emmanuel.
Now she claims that someone came up to her in that parking lot. All she remembers them saying is "Hola," and the next thing she knew, she blacked out. She says she was attacked, and when she woke up, little Emmanuel was gone. Now at that point, deputies started searching the area. This is happening an hour east of Los Angeles. But this story, which, if it actually happened, is a parent's worst nightmare, appears to be falling apart. Over the weekend, San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies released a statement, and they said that they found inconsistencies in the mom, Rebecca's story. And when they pushed her about that, they say she stopped talking to them. Now, on top of that, the Uvalde Foundation for Kids, which is a national nonprofit, it advocates for children, they were helping in the search for Emmanuel when this story first broke. They were offering reward money as well. But in light of this news from law enforcement, they are no longer helping in the search. Law&Crime.com reached out to the nonprofit, and this is what they told us, quote, "We are receiving information that Emmanuel was not even reported to have been seen at the football game. The mother alleged they were all at, as an eyewitness report, that the mother's apparent bruise acquired during the attack at the Big 5 was in fact acquired previous to the incident. We're awaiting further confirmation from law enforcement. All of these, coupled with our previous notes, have led to our decision." Now here's specifically what law enforcement said on Sunday. Quote, "Investigators interviewed multiple individuals, including Emmanuel's parents, Jake and Rebecca Haro. During those interviews, Rebecca was confronted with inconsistencies in her initial statement and declined to continue with the interview. At this point in the investigation, investigators are unable to rule out foul play in the disappearance of Emmanuel." Now, here is the home where Emmanuel lived with his parents per online court records. TV cameras saw detectives investigating at Emmanuel's house overnight, and we're still waiting on an update today if that search found anything related to this case. The Haro's 2-year-old daughter has been removed from the house per KTLA. It also came to light that Emmanuel's dad, Jake, is currently on parole. He was convicted in 2023 of cruelty to children. That was related to a 2018 arrest. Now, even though law enforcement have said said that foul play can't be ruled out. It certainly has lit a fire under the public and wanting to know what happened. It appears there are family members of the Haros sticking by their side. Emmanuel's grandmother spoke to local media. She said that the couple are homebodies. They love their son. They wouldn't do anything to hurt him. She also said that Rebecca stopped cooperating when law enforcement wanted her to take a lie detector test, and her husband recommended they get a lawyer. Now, Emmanuel's dad also cried on TV, pleading for help from the public in finding their son. He even addressed the person that his wife claims took his son. Here's what he told KABC TV cameras.
Whoever took our son, please give him back.
Again, Jake Haro, the dad, he's currently on probation. He's slated to appear next month in court on an alleged probation violation. It's unclear if that has any connection to the disappearance of his son. One other note. We looked through the parking lot on Google Maps where Rebecca says that she was attacked and where Emmanuel was taken, and it does appear that there are security cameras on the sides of buildings, but it doesn't appear to this point, or at least it's unclear, whether anyone has information of the incident that she claims happened. Hey, before we get back to this episode of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on YouTube, I need to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys and a history of winning. They've recovered more than $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients, and in just the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That was 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. And another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. Even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to file a claim. You can do it with just 8 easy clicks on your phone. So if you're injured and you need to start a claim, go to www.forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also scan this QR code on your screen or click the link below. Joining us now is missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher. Thank you for being with us on Law&Crime. Very interesting case out of Southern California. What initially stood out to you about the mom and the dad, but the mom's story that just seemed to be a red flag?
Well, there's a couple things, the attack from behind, for one, and that black eye that she has just really isn't consistent with, an attack from behind. Sure, a person can be pushed and hit the ground and get something like that, but that looks like a punch, and that's hard to do from behind. And also, the just why, I mean, usually in kidnap situations it's almost always family members, and and that's how they get these Amber Alerts out and stuff. And also just if you, let's say a parent had done something to a child, they're a witness, right? They're the ones with the child. They've got to figure out a way to get themselves removed as a witness. They didn't see the person that took this. So how do you do that? You have to go unconscious. So typically stories like, in these situations where a parent's actually involved, it happens that they were attacked and unconscious and they never saw the person that took the child. It's getting rid of that because they are the witness. So I don't know, things just don't seem to be lining up.
No, and like we have this statement from the nonprofit that was working with them where apparently no one saw Emmanuel at this football game that she was allegedly at. And then the black eye is a key part of it because I haven't been punched in the face, at least recently, where, the story she's telling is that this happened and then she just blacks out and then wakes up miraculously. That seems like much more than just a little shiner under your eye. And then
Yeah.
to go on TV too, that's the interesting part as well. Because I know that there was a case, there's been a case we've been following out of Kentucky, Jaden Spicer, where the mom did not talk at all. She released like a handwritten note, and then that in one way was suspicious, but then this one, just the emotion, and even the dad, he's like speaking directly into the camera. In these cases, what is a red flag when it comes to like how a parent acts in these moments that just seems to be authentic? What separates the authentic ones from ones where there's just a lot of questions?
Well, there's a fine line there because everybody reacts different and everybody grieves differently. But in this situation, some of the things she said right off the bat, so she said, if you have him, please um, feed him and change him. You know, th- I think that's her kind of projecting. Hey, listen, I'm a good parent. That's what I would do. I'd feed him and I change him. And it wasn't give me my child back. Pleading with this person. It was feed him and change him. It just seems like kind of overthought statements, I guess. They a little bit they planned it a little too much, possibly, if there's foul play here of what they were going to say. It just didn't come off to me as being genuine. And listen, I think that's it's not like I'm the one that thinks that. Even law enforcement has come out and said her statements are inconsistent. And this just is just not lining up. And who did see that child last? When was that baby seen? Because there doesn't appear to be anybody. She suffered this knockout punch, she says, in the parking lot, but doesn't seem to be anybody that witnessed that or child or anything.
Yeah, and this happened, like that's a good point because it's in the evening Thursday. I want to say it was around like 6 o'clock, and they're in like the parking lot of a strip mall that has a ton of businesses. And like for this to happen, uh like no one saw anything. And what do you make of this point and like what you've been able to find out? Because it's bizarre to me as well that there's no surveillance video whatsoever of this. Um, and like on the Google map, you can kind of see there are surveillance cameras on like the sides of buildings, which you would expect.
Yeah, so it's interesting. When I was looking at it, there's a jewelry store that is next, that kind of adjoins the lot, but it's got those trees that shield it, and it just so happens that where she was attacked is right up against the trees. So it looks like maybe that was scouted out in advance. I cannot confirm if this is true or not, but I did hear from somebody that talked to an employee at the sporting goods store that said that they had come in the day before and asked if there were surveillance cameras because they had some sort of minor traffic incident and they wanted to see if they could get the license plate off the other car. And then apparently they were told there wasn't any cameras. So if that's true, now I can't confirm that, but it came from somebody that I believe has accurate information. If that's true, then that's something that law enforcement's going to pounce on.
Right, because it just feels like with the statements, it's like it was so thought out. If this is actually foul play, which like we don't know, at this point, and that's why
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I think in these cases it's hard. The family stands by them, says that they're loving parents and they have other kids and all this stuff, but then it's like these things just
Yeah.
don't seem to be adding up, and we don't know specifically what the moment was that law enforcement said we need to talk to this, lady. Steve, for you, I mean, you do searches. Oftentimes, they can be someone who's missing for whatever reason. What is law enforcement doing right now? Especially that this search has
Yeah.
taken a turn to saying foul play is possible.
Yeah, so we're not seeing a large scale search, right? So they're not out with search and rescue teams scouring areas. So that's kind of worst case scenario. It makes me think that what they're doing is they're looking for a specific spot to recover, Emmanuel, unfortunately. So I think what they're doing is if the vehicles have any sort of infotainment system that has GPS data, it collects. Obviously, their phones, I'm sure that they've already done exigent warrants on those and gotten the location data. However, this seemed to be pretty thought out, so I wouldn't be surprised if their phones location sharing is off. However, this could have happened a while ago. This didn't necessarily mean that this happened on Thursday. It's going to be a matter of detectives backing up and finding when they can positively have somebody else put eyeballs on that child, when that the child was seen and where, and then work forward from there. Because just because they put this in motion on Thursday does not mean that an event happened Thursday. It's going to be, when was the child last seen? How big of a head start did they have? So they're going to have to go back in any GPS data they can get and see how far they can go, and surveillance leaving their property. Ironically, their property is about 200 to 300 feet from the sheriff's station. So the sheriff's station's own
Yeah.
surveillance cameras very well could get their cars coming and going, and all times of the day.
Well, and I know that you're a medic too, and this is something I'm also thinking about just because I keep thinking of this black eye she had and how it just doesn't, for most of us, when it comes to someone getting knocked out, you're watching mixed martial arts and you're like, okay, that's how that
Right.
looks. Like she doesn't appear to have any other injuries either. Like if you're going to get knocked out
No.
and you're standing, like there's no, like how common is it for someone, okay, if I get punched in the face and I fall to the ground, that there's going to be something else on my body, especially in like a concrete parking lot like she was.
And that will all be noted too, even if it's not bruises. Like, does she have gravel on her shirt from falling forward, stuff like that? And remember, even though we might not have seen the bruise until a day or two later on the news, the officer's body cam got it immediately. So that officer's body cam is going to show what that was supposedly minutes after she was attacked. But that's a healing bruise that we're seeing. I am, a medic for search and rescue, and that hematoma, that's dark. But when you first get something like that, it turns like a cherry red, and then it goes through the stages of healing. And then it's once the oxygenation has left those blood cells, it starts turning dark like that. So that's an end, and the swelling's gone. So that's a heal. That's an older bruise. That is not a day or two old bruise. So that story doesn't check out either, as far as I'm concerned. It's all just my opinion, but I don't believe that's a new bruise.
Well, and it seems like everybody kind of has, like even law enforcement, to put this statement out. Like, what does it tell you? I mean, they say we can't rule out foul play. That feels like there's a fine line between that and we believe that foul play was involved, because I'm sure a large agency like the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, when you put the statement out, we cannot rule out foul play, that everybody in the public's mind is going to go into one direction. In your experience, when a statement like that is made by law enforcement, what does that tell you?
So it's really, to me, the timing. They were so quick to come out and say this isn't adding up. Her statements are contradictory, and I think that's really to put that out in the public, but also to put the pressure on both of them to get them to turn on each other. Was the husband there when this happened, or wasn't he? Or get one of them to start trying to save themselves and turn on the other. And I think through that public pressure, it does work, because now you got the grandmother involved, probably pressuring them like what really did happen, and they're. I think one of them is going to crack soon. I really do. I don't think they can keep it up that much longer. And he doesn't have any rights as far as search and seizure goes, because he's on probation from from another child abuse incident. So he loses those rights, where they don't have to get warrants to search his property and his possessions and stuff like that, his phone and things like that. So I think that it was done intentionally, and I think it was because it was like, listen, this is glaringly obvious. You don't have to be a detective to figure out that there's something amiss here, and let's put it out there. Let's let them know that we know, and let's see if they start cannibalizing each other. And they probably will happen soon. I know that they've supposedly lawyered up, but even then, it's an interesting dynamic if they have the same lawyer, because they could lose privilege. So we'll have to see where that goes. But I think one will probably turn on the other soon.
Because if this was still being investigated as an abduction, and if there was any validity to her story, what does this search look like?
So if they really thought this was an abduction, what they'd be doing is they'd be checking every piece of surveillance in that surrounding area and every license plate reader to try and get a make and model of a vehicle. Because if they can get a description of an abductor or make a model of a vehicle, then it qualifies for an Amber Alert. And an Amber Alert would go out immediately. They don't have either of those. And listen, it's a busy enough area. They would be able to, with San Bernardino is an agency that they deal with a lot of homicides, because it's a very vast desert area. Palm Desert, Palm Springs, um, that type of. They're very good at these type of situations. These detectives, and so they would be able to get something. They would see a fleeing vehicle or something, and then they would go to an Amber Alert. The fact that we haven't gotten that is really telling. And so from there, with the Amber Alert, then you have all the federal agencies, FBI, U.S. Marshal Service, because of where San Bernardino is, Customs Border Patrol would get involved. But we're not even seeing traditional search and rescue teams out searching those desert areas. So they seem to think, to me, it seems that they, think that they need to just get the information. They can, there's unfortunately a spot, and they're just narrowing down what that is through, forensics, digital forensics, and also, I'm sure they're interviewing them over and over. Even though they've lawyered up, they still have ways of putting pressure on them. And I think that's another reason they're using the public is like, okay, if they are not going to talk to us and they're going to invoke their rights, we're going to leak it out into the public slowly, let them know what we know.
Yeah, and I know last night there was video of detectives at their home. At the time of this recording, we haven't really had an update from them today, so who knows what that means, whether they found anything, if they're still working on, interviews throughout the day. This area, just being in California, it just seems from Google Maps, which is all I can do here on the East Coast, but it just seems like a lot of desert where the house is. It's kind of vast, in the area where it could go out to. I mean, gosh, if you're looking for this young boy, and you hope that it's not the worst case scenario, but even in that case, I mean, how difficult is it to find someone in a place? I mean, if he's so small, and you just think of how do you find someone in the desert like this?
Yeah, it's tough because this is an area, if you're driving from Los Angeles to Palm Springs, this would be the area before you get to Palm Springs. And it's really, there's a casino there right on the I-10, and there's the Cabazon outlet malls. And other than that, it is just mountain and desert terrain as far as you can see. And it's vast. It's hot. It's 110 there at this time of year. So it's it makes for a difficult search. But like you said, they were at the house. And the other thing that's interesting about that house is, from looking at it from an investigator, is there's a lot of family members that are attached to that property. So even if they've lawyered up, there's other people there that they would know when they last saw Emmanuel, or if things have been going on, or when vehicles came or went, late night. There's probably family members that know things. These are not things that, it's hard for people to keep these secrets, these deep, dark secrets. And I think somebody with this type of public scrutiny on them, somebody's going to flip.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be in the next day or two.
Yeah, I mean, the story just it doesn't add up. I mean, from even, the marks on her face to now what we're hearing from people outside of her story about not seeing the boy at the football game, and she might have had the black eye prior to that. You certainly hope that it's not going to be the worst, outcome, but it's a scary, kind of a scary story as the hours go on. Steve Fisher, missing persons private investigator. It's always great to have you on Law&Crime. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you very much.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.